thank you again from agreeing to talk with me, because I'm truly honored and inspired by your actions and the way you talk about technology, the way you talk about life. And actually, when I first Googled your LinkedIn profile, I saw in the description of your amazing company that you say, "I'm citing now, you are redefining how people and technology work together." So, how would you actually would like them to redefine it? What is your perfect definition, perfect situation?
I really want people to think about how technology can support what we as people want to achieve. And that's what I'm really about. So I do think that we have a tendency to feel, and a lot with new technologies, this sense that we're being overrun, that technology will take over our lives. And I want to really help people think about how technology can be used for their purposes and how they can take advantage of it and how they can adapt technology to their needs. And so in that sense, redefine it in the sense that it is still a partnership between, if you will, people and technology. And then in the hope also aspirationally to be better people, to be better. So kind of we can engage technology to do the things that we as humans are not so good at. And we can then focus more of our attention on being great humans.
Yeah, that's so well said. Truly amazing. But actually, if because in Poland there are many people who say that they are in their 70s and they say, let's say, I won't learn new technologies because it's no use, and they even sometimes say, I will soon die anyway, and there is no way in which I can make use of it. So, what would you say to people like this?
Um, I mean, it's a big question because I would want to understand why they're feeling that way. It's certainly not consistent with my experience or what I think is possible for how people use technology throughout their lives. And so the first thing I would want to know is, why are they feeling like they are not kind of part of this new world? Because digital technologies have and will continue to transform the world. And I am sad when I hear that people feel that they are somehow not a part or don't want to be a part of this world. Although I also think people are allowed to choose to not participate. I think it's going to be very isolating, though, especially as you get older. There are such incredible possibilities that can come with even understanding and getting comfortable with just a few basic technologies that I think is really worth the effort that it takes to actually learn them. And so I think I would need to know why they're feeling that way, because I certainly think there's a place and an opportunity for um, every age, every stage, to find ways that these new technologies can open up new possibilities in their world.
Sure. So, do you think that's I don't know, the fear of change would make happen?
Oh, yeah, I think it could well be. It's probably fear of change. I think it's fear of 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 not understanding, and at a stage of life where you feel very accomplished with a lot of experience, that you have to go into this new place again where you're a beginner, you don't know your way. And so I think there's a fear of looking incompetent and and fear of making mistakes in a like a broad way, and being vulnerable to criticism on that. So I do think there's because people definitely talk about fear when we talk about these things. So there is fear of change. There are some other things though that you have to kind of reimagine. You have to be able to handle the ambiguity and the uncertainty of this new world. So when we talk about digital and what it can mean, is it does open up a new world, but that also brings uncertainty about what's that world going to be like. And I think one of the challenges for particularly older individuals, so you said you were asking about people sort of in their 70s or older, is that the world they see around them when they hear about digital or read about digital environments or societies, they're seeing much younger people participate, but they aren't necessarily seeing how people like them are participating, what they are able to do. And that's unfortunate to my mind, because my parents are both over 70. My mom particularly is very technically savvy. She has been using iPads, and particularly most of her products are in the Apple space, but she uses technology, like digital technologies, all the time. And she makes new videos. She has a website. She uses an Apple Watch, because frankly, in her case, because when she turned 80, she wanted an Apple Watch because there is a fall detection capability in the Apple Watch. And just physiologically, it's known that after 80, the chance of falling goes up. And she wanted a fall detection, but she didn't want something hanging around her neck. She's like, I'm going to get an Apple Watch. Everyone else, the young kids are wearing Apple Watches too. There's no kind of stigma that would go with that, and yet she's still protected. So that to me is just an example of how technology, she feels safer than without it.
Yeah, well, your mother seems like an incredible person, truly. I can hear the spirit from your story.
Yeah, she is. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And always curious, always looking to see what can I do with it. And not one of the things I really admire about her is that she's got a sense of what she wants to do, and doesn't really worry about all the millions of things that are possible. She just is like, this is what I want it to do, and I'm going to figure out how that works.
Oh, that's amazing. And I wish more people had like this mentality.
Yeah, well, we can inspire them. That's worry about all the millions of things that are possible. She just is like, this is what I want it to do, and I'm going to figure out how that works.
Oh, that's amazing. And I wish more people had like this mentality.
Yeah, well, we can inspire them. That's what we're here to do.
Exactly. But you said because what I understood is that we need to spread awareness, spread more examples like your mother, that technology is not only for the young people. But how do we make this promotion of technology among every age group, not ageist? Because it often happens that you portray an older individual using a computer, like, this is a computer, this is a mouse, like talking like to a baby, which is part of ageism, but we are not talking about ageism exactly. We are talking about technology among all age groups. So how would you make this, let's say, this campaign, let's make it like that.
Are we going to brainstorm a campaign? What a great idea. That's what we're going to do. Well, there's some great work being done. I think one of the, so across ages, I think what it is, so I think what happens is some of us are paying attention to an older demographic because they do tend to be missed in other media and profiling. However, I do think it's really starting to change, and we're going to see more and more uptake of it. I don't know if you've ever heard of Glamour Beijing. Have you heard of Glamour? Yeah, they are 4 women, 60 plus, who are have basically taken to social media to redefine what it looks like to age. Now they're in China. So I think it wasn't on TikTok. It's on the Chinese version of TikTok, but they are on Instagram, TikTok, it's amazing. And so more and more people who are simply engaging with the technologies and in some way, and for their purposes, like to tell the stories that people who are older want to hear, or stories that are not yet being shared in that domain. So I think that's the kind of thing that really helps. So if I were building a campaign, I would be looking for stories about people who are using modern technologies in ways that are theirs, like where they have found, this would be my spend, because my focus, because I am very much about how we use digital technologies to connect to other people. So it's really like human to human connection, if you like, using digital technologies. And so stories about that, I think, where people are not defined by their age, but they are represented. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
I hear, and that's perfect statement, actually, that they are not they age, but they represent their age. I truly like that.
Yeah, like it's just like life stories, only it happens to be enabled by, you know, technology, like digital technologies. It's just that um, yeah, and the thing that I think is really exciting is when it's done in a style that's really their voice, as opposed to kind of trying to mimic a voice of what we think social should be like. As we start to see people sort of get comfortable with the technology, which is the first step, is first you have to get comfortable with the technology, and then you can start to practice your voice in it, which is what I think is pretty cool about these Glamour Beijing women, because they are, you know, I think they met in modeling class or something, like as
Oh,
models. So they're very elegant, beautiful women with, you know, like, but they are like, they're really interesting.
I will definitely check them out. Thank you for mentioning them.
Mm-hmm.
Actually staying a bit in this topic of campaigning, let's say, so do you think like
Mm-hmm.
these workshops for older adults often is called, the first step with technology, teaching technology to seniors? Is
Mm-hmm.
that a great initiative?
Uh, so if it gets people in the classrooms, yes. I think, and what is really important is to make what I consider kind of the on-ramp really easy and accessible. Getting started is really helpful for people if they really need to get started. Where I get a little more my lens in terms of when I design workshops and as I'm designing right now, is really to take it to next level. I think there's a lot going on around how to get onto technology, onto like getting started with computers or getting started with social, but the next layer of it is not really there. It's like, okay, so I know how to post something, but I don't know why or why would I do that? What am I going to say? Like, how do I, and then it goes a different level again, where it's like, how do I do that if I want to connect with these people? Like, I don't, so there's the adoption part. Like, so adoption is being covered. Adapting it, then next step of like taking advantage, that I think is still missing, which is what my focus is on in terms of the workshops and courses and so on that I'm designing. So for instance, the one that I'm working on is called Speak for Yourself, and it is about being seen, heard, and found online. And it covers not so much like how does Zoom work, but how can I be my like be my own voice on Zoom? How do I do that if with the family, how do we run those things? But also, how do I do that as an employee in an office, as part of a team, like with my colleagues, or how do I do it when I want to host an event and I want to connect with customers or potential clients? Not just do I know where the buttons are, but do I understand how this technology, how this format can be leveraged, used more effectively to achieve my objectives. So I think it's fine that those courses exist. I think that there's a real gap on the kinds of courses to take that up level. And why that becomes so important is because, particularly for people who are uh, let's call it more experienced, particularly like more experienced business professionals and so on, there's in a personal setting, in a real world in-person setting, I've talked to so many, like they're all very, very confident. They have a lot of expertise to share. They know how to run meetings. Like that's a very common experience. But also what's common is the clunkiness and the lack of confidence with the technology that then interferes, makes them feel like they are not putting out their expertise, their persona the way they want. Like they're not able to be themselves. That is the thing that I think needs more work and practice, frankly, because it's different. What we are doing right now is very different than us sitting and having coffee together.
Yeah, exactly. But well, actually, it's the first time I actually understood this gap you are talking about, and I think your approach is truly unique and needed. And so, for
Let's hope
everyone,
so.
yeah, for
Because
everyone,
it's awesome. Like there's so much possibility that we are talking, you and I, well, that we met in a webinar course, or not course, just a webinar event, and that we are now talking. I'm in Toronto, you're in Poland. I'm not sure even where you are in Poland, but where are you in Poland?
In Katowice, it's southern Poland.
Okay, so in any way, we are half a world away from each other, and yet we can like connect, we can explore what we can do together. Like, it's just incredible. So there's huge potential. I don't say we shouldn't meet in person. That would be lovely. Having coffee with you in person one day, let's hope.
Yes,
but
definitely.
I'm just saying that while we can't, this is a very rich medium and will only get richer. This is the other component that I think is so important, is that right now, this is still very clunky. Like, we're trying to make this work. But when we start to think about what augmented reality could mean as an additional element when we do these things, like some of the technologies that are going to be coming out in the next 3, 5, 10 years are going to transform even this experience. And so the thing that I think is so exciting is that, now let me go back to your 70-year-olds who think they don't need to be a part of this. Fair enough. And I think it's such a missed opportunity, because connection is so important to us as humans, and it gets more difficult as we get older. That's just a reality. As you know, our world shrinks, we lose friends, what have you. And so I think really that understanding how to use modern technologies to stay connected in a social way, also business wise, because staying active, you know, is just important. Sense of purpose is one of our core needs. That getting on board now, like, we live pretty long lives for the most part. So if you're 70, there's a really good chance you have another 10, 15 years to go, which means you want, you know, that some of these transformations will be occurring in your lifetime, and it could change your life in the future to put the investment and start to learn how to use them now. And for sure, to start to practice some of the strategies. So it's not just about learning a technology, because all the technology will change, but it's also about understanding, how do I do that? How do I pick this up? Because, and this is really important as you get older, and it's different for younger people, because younger people haven't learned as much as older people. So when you're older, you have to unlearn how you did something before, and now you have to relearn a new way of doing things. That is more cognitively expensive, like expensive in our like effort, than just learning. But in the future, and with this kind of digital and, you know, augmented world or enhanced world, that cycle is going to be very rapid and continuous for the rest of our lives. So it's really important to get good at it, but also, because it is demanding, also be good at identifying where it's worth the effort and where maybe you'll skip a step. So there's a lot in this space, and there are things that are just a function of being older. But that has nothing to do with whether you can do it or not. It's just whether you're willing, you know, you are able to get your head around why you're going to put the effort in.
Yeah, amazing. There was a word in English saying that I agree. I don't remember it now, but I do.
Yeah.
So actually, for anyone watching now and wanting to get to learn technology with your approach, can anyone reserve their seat on the workshop you are working on now?
Well, it's in beta right now, so I'm going to be putting it into a testing, but it will be available in the fall. So if anyone wants to reach out, you can reach me. You can look at orangegate.ca and you'll see some information there, or you can email me, which I think we'll have in the notes somewhere probably. Yeah. But so just reach out to me, and we'll get started. Definitely, I'm also starting to write a newsletter that will include really more insights and inspiration than actual strategies, although we'll have some little strategies in there as well, because it's meant to be just a kind of just a light touch. Yeah, sign up for the newsletter and stay in the loop for sure. Yeah.
Yes, and the link will be found in the description of this interview. So
Perfect. Yes.
we are encouraging everyone, because that's truly one of the best investments you can make in the nowadays world, in yourself, right?
Oh my gosh. I think wherever, if our approach appeals to you, then we love to hear from you, and we want to be a part of helping anyone who wants to um, get comfortable with technology and really open up the doors and the possibilities of what's of a whole new world, and new opportunities in that world. But if it's not us, then look for somebody, some organization that you feel comfortable with, to learn how to, firstly, if you're feeling anxious or uncomfortable, first make sure that, somebody that you feel can help you over that first hurdle, but then also to continue to learn. I mean, I don't know if it's something you hear a lot, but there's a lot of talk about continuous learning and lifelong learning. Um, and it does get more difficult as you leave the formal learning structures, such as schools and universities. And so as a child, when you're learning, and as you age as a young adult, when you're learning, it's in technical, in sort of psychological terms, it's called scaffolding, but there's a lot of structure, social structure, formal structure, classroom structure. You have classes, you're put in groups, you get assignments, all that is there. All of your friends are doing the same things. You as you stream into university, you tend to hang out and see people you have classes with the people who are interested in the same things. And then you go out into the world, and all of that falls away. All of that structure, all that scaffolding, which is what a scaffold, I don't even know. Do you know what scaffolding is? It's like around a building. Typically you see it around a building, and it's all the structure that holds up the building until the building can stand. So all of that falls away. And so if I look at myself, for instance, I mean, I'm a very, very active learner. So I find ways to put things around me to be able, I take courses. I take courses because I need the structure of a course. But it's not that easy to find people who are doing the same thing. So for instance, one of the things I think we're going to be doing, no, not I think, we will be doing, probably also a fall of 2021, is to start building almost like maker sessions. I don't know if you know what maker sessions are, where you bring people together and they make stuff together. But imagine probably a digital virtual version of that, where we bring together a group of 5 or 7 people who are all working on their personal website right now.
Oh, that would be me.
Sorry?
That would be me, truly.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be you, but maybe I basically that you guys would do it together. It's kind of like cohort learning, but and so you could learn from each other. It's peer to peer. You'd learn from each other. Like maybe some people are using Squarespace, some people are using Wix. WordPress is a different animal again, but maybe that. But it's not even just like, did you figure out how to do such and such in Squarespace? But you learn from each other, and to bring that together. And let people learn from each other. That is a really powerful way to learn. And that is like one of the things that we're gonna be doing with OrangeGate, is to create those kinds of experiences that don't exactly replicate formal education, but do have elements that really enhance the experience of learning, so that you get some of the structure, some of the infrastructure that you want and need to continue to learn technology, because it's so essential. It's just, there's so much out there. You have to figure out how to navigate that. But yeah. So
that sounds truly amazing. And actually, not many people realize that interacting and learning in this fascinating, like the best way that you were describing, it's actually one of the ways to prevent dementia. So that's another one of hundreds
you
of
bet.
benefits. Yes.
Well, I think that's so great that you bring that up. Of course you would, because I know that's something that you are so concerned about. And yeah, so that's one of the things. Learning is just really, really good for our brains. It does. And novelty, it turns out, actually is really, really important for our brains, which is kind of interesting that there's a tendency to kind of stop seeking out novelty. And when I mean novelty, I don't mean I love to read, I look for a new book. I'm like, I'm going to learn something brand new that requires you to go through that experience of uncertainty, of I know people don't like this word, but of failure. Like you're gonna be bad before you're good. Like that's just how this
Definitely.
works. And it's hard to be bad. Like it's a drag to be bad. I mean, it's a bad drag to be bad all the time. It never feels good, but it's harder when you are good at a lot, like you are already good at a lot of things. It becomes riskier. It feels riskier because your sense of self can come into question. Um, but it's so healthy for your mind.
Yes, definitely. Well, I would even say that getting better at this thing that you first were a failure at is actually an even better feeling than mastering the discipline that you were already kind of good at.
I think you're absolutely right. It's also because it opens a door. Like if you are if you continue if you continue to get better at something you're already a master at. Now, not that that's not worthwhile. It's just it's like the bumps are just like really like the incremental growth is very small. The difference between not being well, I mean, not being able to uh, create a podcast and creating one, that's a huge leap. Speaking as someone who started doing that last year, and my first ones were just a disaster. Like it was so hard, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I thought it's not going to get better unless I practice. I have to practice, and it's it's going to be as good as it can be right now. Only, but the difference between, let's say, the first one and the third one is huge.
Yes, definitely.
And that's exciting, and it changes it changes your mind. And actually, I'm reading a book, I'm gonna finish it, by it's called Beginners,
Mhm.
and it's by Tom Vanderbilt, and he is specifically talking about how about that beginner mindset, but also how important lifelong learning is. But interestingly, that we actually do better when we learn a lot of new things at the same time.
Yeah, and also the enthusiasm that actually immediately comes into the conversation when where we are talking about things that we managed to be great at. That's well,
Yes.
another benefit, another pro.
Well, and I think that's really interesting, because I think that is one of those are some of the stories we should share. So when we build our campaign for how for raising the profile of people across generations using technology, those are the stories. It's the overcoming of the challenge that is so exciting. And also, um, if we when you tell those stories, and I kind of do in my podcast tell those stories, um, the thrill is so exciting. But also, what's great is when you tell those stories, because they're real people, we also don't talk these are not people who have mastered it. So you catch the story at the point that you just identified, at the point where you're like, oh, I went from not being able to do it to do it. I'm not the best podcaster in the world. That's not the point. I went from zero to something.
Yes,
Those are the stories we need to have in our campaign.
exactly, and we definitely will someday. But
Well, and it's exciting because one of the things that we talked about is you talk about across generations. That is something that stays with us. So why that's a particularly good concept, I think, for the objective, because it will resonate. It's age agnostic, if you will. Like it doesn't matter what age you are. We get we get what that feeling is.
yeah,
So that would be a good one.
definitely. I feel truly inspired. But
Awesome.
speaking of challenges, I suppose that founding a company is actually a challenge. So when you were founding Orange Gate, did you feel, except for the challenge, because now it's going on and you're obviously having success that I can see, but did you feel the kind of ageism stigma founding a technology startup and not being in your teens? Maybe not teens, but 20s.
Um, So OrangeGate evolved. This is not, this is, and I imagine when you ask people this, a lot of people will tell you that the path is, there's so many different stories of how people become entrepreneurs and how they build their companies. It's different for everyone. Um, so in my case, I started OrangeGate because I was doing independent consulting and I needed to create a company to do that. And then I had it basically as purely just me as my consulting company. I did give it a name because I wanted to think about it as a company and not just as a, as a nothing. It was relevant to me. But so it wasn't actually until 2014 when I started to make a move and say, I'm going to do something else with OrangeGate. And I was, and that was when I started to add, it was still in digital transformation because that's been my space for a very long time, but it was starting to add a design capability and like a design studio capability that would create the artifacts, the materials that are necessary or useful when you do large scale technology change in banks, because that's what I was doing. And then it evolved over the course of a couple of years into not just a design studio, but then an innovation lab when I was asked actually by a client to explore just at a concept level, what would a concept coworker robot be? What would that look like? And I was very interested already in how were people going to partner with modern technology. And I was interested specifically in the kinds of technologies that I thought were in the next, the next wave of transforming not just the workplace, but also society. And I knew that AI and some of the innate, the other technologies around that, robots, voice, we're all going to be a part of that. So it kind of went that direction. And then frankly, I got down a path on that, and I found that I wasn't able to run the consulting the way I wanted to, and then also go in this new direction. The ageism or any kind of ism, if you like, that I ran into, I certainly knew people were surprised to see me, what I look like as, and talking and knowing as much about robots as I did. I don't know that it is my age or my gray hair or that I'm a woman, because I also have a political science degree. Like, I'm not a techie. So in every way, I was not what people were expecting. However, it meant that I had a really different voice and people did want to start hearing that. And so, how am I doing? Am I answering your question the
Yes,
way?
yes, you
Yeah.
are.
Okay. Good.
Definitely.
So, so I did bump into it, and I certainly have bumped into people who think I don't understand. But to be fair, often like technology can be very, very complicated. And so my strength is in a conceptual understanding of how things work, how things fit together, but also how ecosystems fit together. So I know like more about quantum computing than I would make sense for me to know, but because it's something that gets talked about at in big enterprise and future, and certainly anything with a lot of data. Um, but and I took a course at the university here at Rotman on AI and what it could mean from a business perspective. So I do get very informed on how these things work, but always kind of at a level of like, okay, so how are we going to solve challenges using this? What are the opportunities? So I do put a lot of effort into making sure I understand the technology, so that I'm legit when people push on, ask me a few questions. But it really struck me when I sort of, as I evolved, um, I was invited to speak at the University of Singapore,
Oh,
um,
interesting.
about robots. And that was a really big experience for me because it was such a clear indicator that people wanted my kind of voice, not just roboticists, uh, uh, engineering physics people. Like it's just, and computer science people. Like I had a different take, and that actually I then did some other things, but that actually made me turn a corner and say, wait a minute, like I now understand what's going on in this space a little bit. And I can see that there are lots of people who are taking care of the technology, but I want to take care of the people and make sure that like one thing I learned is, as a robot mama, because I called myself that at one point, having had several robots. But one of the things I learned is that the robots were not ready for designers like me to be working on them. They weren't quite ready for prime time, for sure, in that social space. They're very ready and have been for years in terms of, auto manufacturing, tunneling. They're going to be incredible, I think, in terms of sanitation. There's going to be huge opportunities, but just not the human to human part of it, like where that happens. But much more clear for me was that we as people were not ready. And since that's my strength, I then turned a corner in the business and said, you know what, I'm not going to design the robots. I'm going to design solutions for people so that when they're ready, there will be people who can take advantage.
It's truly music to my ears to hear that.
I'm sorry?
It's truly music to my ears to hear that. Focusing on the people. How can technology help the people, not people helping technology, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, I don't think it makes us good news, right? Like scary, like robots are going to take your job. I'm like, that's good, scary news. And so people get anxious and everybody talks about that. And so I don't know that there's quite as much talk about the humanity that can come from, that if we work hard can come from technology, because ultimately technology is neutral. Like it just does whatever we want it to do. If we want to do terrible things, then we'll do it more efficiently. And if we want to do great things, I think we can do that more efficiently. But you do really need to understand how it works in order to make that acceleration work in the direction that you want it to go.
Yeah, exactly. But actually, you bringing up robots and the thing that humans are not ready actually for robots, that actually brings up another topic. That's because I heard that robots are projected to be a solution for loneliness, and especially in the nursing homes or things like that. But do you think that actually a robot, artificial intelligence, can ever replace human touch, human, being with each other to fight loneliness?
This is a really big area. I don't know about ever, honestly. Like I have concerns about it though, for sure, because ultimately, like I can't love, I don't, I mean, I appreciate my laptop a lot. I really appreciate my computers, but I don't love my computer. And much more importantly, my computer cannot love me. And so there's a humanity that is required in that emotional transfer that certainly AI and robots will be able to mimic. But you could probably will be like, people will not agree with me on this. But I think that the kinds of connection that we as humans need to thrive anyway, I do not see that coming from a robot or AI, but I do see it being enabled in ways that would be really remarkable. So one of the one of the ideas I had that I actually showcased at Collision here in Toronto a few years ago, just to make a statement about what does it look like when we try to design it for, I call it human via digital connection. So it's like human to human, but we're using digital as the thing in between. And so I had envisioned what I called Hesta Hub. But basically what I wanted to use simple, basic sensing technologies. And like, I'm like, I want that in my parents' home in Amsterdam so that their home can tell me when I need to call them.
Yeah, but
so that it was.
How do you imagine that? Like a floor with a touch detector, or?
Yeah, like any number. Like the concept is make the home an interactive part of the social infrastructure for aging in place and for human and for family connection in my case, because I live in Toronto. My parents live in Amsterdam. I call them when I think maybe I'll call them. But I don't know that my mom or dad, or like, I don't know that if my mom is sad, like if something's happened and my mom is sad, I don't know that, but their home does.
Yeah,
And so
that
I
sounds
don't,
like so much like science fiction, but that sounds amazing. I wish I had a home like that.
well, it's not, this is actually so completely doable. It's completely doable, but it does have to be done, to my mind, with great thoughtfulness and elegance and compassion, because I don't really want I, I was really aware of wanting a sensing, not a watching. So I don't want to watch my parents, but imagine, for example, as basic a sensor that just sits in the doorway between their bedroom and their hall. And over time, we learn, the algorithm can learn, or can, just predict what's the window of time that doorway gets, that threshold gets passed, so that we could eventually set it that if it doesn't get passed by a certain time, something happens. Maybe the first thing is a check to themselves that says, hey, are you okay? If they don't respond, then there's a check to me that says, hey, give your mom a call. Like, something's off here.
That
So
sounds
it's
so
not,
amazing.
yeah, like it's not, but you get that what I'm saying. It's not about putting cameras in their house,
Yeah.
because nobody wants that. The other thing is that, yeah, I'll tell you, I started making it thinking I wanted to just create. I had a little robot, and I like a little mini one, a Japanese one. And I was like, I want to create a solution for parents of children whose kids are between sort of, let's say, 10 and 14. That's sort of, which here, at least here in Canada, is sort of that window that I remember having with my kids, where both parents are working. The kids come home from school. They're too old for a babysitter, but they're kind of young to be by themselves for those 2 hours. And I was like, I just want that. I just want to know my kid is home. And I want to know, I don't know, like I maybe want to have some understanding of what's going on in what kind of connection they're doing internet wise. Like, I don't know, I made something up. So I was thinking that originally. And then my family, a very, very dear friend of my family, fell in her home and
Sorry.
wasn't, oh yeah, no, it was so she fell. And the only way they found out is because it happened to be her either birthday or anniversary. And the florist knocked at the door, didn't get a response, left flowers, and then felt like something was wrong and called her daughter and said, you should check in with your daughter, with your mom, because something didn't feel right over there. And then it turned out that she had fallen. And so they go to the home, and it's 6 hours later, at least 6
Oh,
hours has passed. And so now she's fine. She's like, but my point is, nobody wants to be videotaped in their house, but also nobody wants to be left on the floor for 6 hours or
definitely.
longer. So it was really, that's when I turned a corner, because I was like, that's the puzzle. The puzzle is like, can we find an elegant solution for that? And that's when I actually decided I just started to envision what Hesta Hub could be, because I'm like, oh my God, there are floor sensors that you would know that she'd fallen.
Yeah, well, I am definitely
And you don't have to wear anything. Do you
yeah.
know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm not sure when or what I'm going to do with that exactly, but and then there are, for the more techies in who might be listening, there are considerations, for instance, though, where the data resides for that, and there are really elegant solutions where the data doesn't have to go to the cloud. The only thing that gets sent to the cloud is the ping human, or like send Janneke a note to call, but not the reason why. So the data about what's happening in the house doesn't have to, um, be available for everyone.
So
Oh
the
yeah, I had all kinds of exciting ideas about that. I'm like, gosh, you know what else would be awesome is if I put, like, could my house tell me I left my keys or my wallet at home? That'd be so
could it?
handy.
But could it? Is it like technically possible
Of yes,
without cameras?
absolutely. Without cameras, yeah, you could put a tag on your phone on your. I mean, it can be done. I don't know all the intricacies of exactly how we do it, but we mimicked it a little bit, because you can put a tag on your in your wallet that then, if it crosses a threshold, or if it's not with another thing, I mean, your phone, if you have like a Bluetooth connection, would already know if your phone is far away from your Bluetooth.
Well,
So if
yes,
that connection breaks, then you just get you get an alert on your phone saying, "Hey, your wallet isn't with you. Is that cool with you?"
yeah. Well,
Like, imagine, that would be so. I mean, like, that is the kind of thing I want technology to do for me.
that is the kind of thing that I wish the world will look like. In, the faster the better, actually, because the what you are saying right now, it's actually this vision of the future that children say, that I want future to be good, I want everyone to be safe, and
Yeah.
the perfect world we are envisioning before we kind of counter the reality that might be sometimes harsh. But when you are saying that it's actually doable, and people like I, as a humanity, we have the resources, we have the knowledge, and people like you have the ideas and the willing to do this, and that's incredible, and that truly inspires me.
Well, I'm so glad. I really, it's funny. I haven't been doing a lot of this recently, because I've been realizing that the first step to that is you need to understand some basics around how technology works and get comfortable with it. And yeah, but I want more people in the game to start making ideas with me. Like, I'm like, I can't do it by myself. That's that's not how this works. More minds is better in this game. And we need more minds that are not engineers, because engineers are essential, and the computer scientists and all of that is absolutely critical. Their strength and job, if you will, in this ecosystem, is to make the device do what it's supposed to do efficiently and effectively, and so on. We can't then also expect them to envision all the things that we wish this thing would do. So I think we need more people. I mean, this is a call to anybody. I would like more people to think about, what could we do? What would we wish it would do? And particularly people who are going to do it with a compassionate mindset, and also with a lot of understanding and thoughtfulness about what the problem is that you're trying to solve, and try to solve it in the smallest, lightest possible way.
So can
Yeah.
we email our idea without any knowledge about the true technology, the tech insights? Like, can we just email you and say, I don't know if it's doable, but I would think that this and this would work?
Well, you can, but that's not enough. It's not enough to just have the idea. You do have to go a little deeper, because great ideas are all over the place, and terrible ideas are all over the place. Ideas are kind of free. It's when you get into like, okay, but how could we make that doable? Because there's a lot of work required to make that happen, even before you get to the technology. Truly, like, it's like, do I need this? You have to do a lot of research. You need to talk to people and say, how would it be for you? Like, would you feel good about a sensor? Like, are you good with a sensor? How do you feel about a camera? I mean, I had one guy that I spoke to who says, like, you can have sensors that are in walls that can, like, do, like, I think, track heart rate or something. Yeah.
That's incredible.
But who wants that? Like, I'm like, no, stop that crazy. Nobody wants that. That's an invasion of the space, and you certainly can't start there. So one of the things that I think that I brought to the table and do bring to the table is an understanding of how people, like, what is the path people need to take to go from the house as it is now to a very enabled house. And and that needs to be, to my mind, a process. That's an iterative process where we start small and we add things to it and we get people comfortable, because you do need to understand some things about data and privacy in order to get to that stage, because these are very intimate spaces we're talking about. But I think the opportunities are extraordinary. And the other thing is that there's so much great tech out there. We don't need to make new tech. We need to get smart about how we put it together to solve problems people have in elegant ways.
Yeah, definitely. Well, don't actually know what to say, because it's so perfect. Actually, you are approaching this is in such a holistic manner that it's rare to find such an approach in the technology I know of. You know, like this random person without any deeper knowledge about technology. So, wow, truly wow.
Oh, well, thanks. I mean, I hope I'm able to do something with it. I so appreciate the feedback, and also that you're interested, because I think it's not something that it's totally not a one person game. Like this is something that, you know, everyone needs to be a part of. And also people who, I loved what you said about, you know, that you want a vision of a better future, of how technology can make it better. We just need to get more concrete about what that looks like, and start daring to try to create that reality, because it's hard. And I know in my case, one of the things that happened for me is that I'm 54, and I started, and I had seen what was happening with robots, and I could understand what the population realities are globally. And I was like, I really see technology will transform how I could age. Like it's good, like I can be in my home longer. There's so much opportunity. But kind of like what you mentioned, I was like, but I've been in this space now for a while, and I'm not seeing anyone like me here. So who is making the solutions that I need? Because none of you are like me enough. Like there's nobody here. So in the end, what I thought is, wait a minute, there's nobody like me here who has this and this and this put together. And I decided that which is like, yeah, I decided that if not me, who? Like if I literally thought to myself, I imagine my 75-year-old self, like when I look in the mirror, saying to me, okay, wait, so you had the opportunity and the understanding and the place, and you have the potential for the voice to make the solutions that I need to, so that I can live the life I want to lead. And you decided it was a lot of work, and you weren't sure you could do it. Like, no way, no how. Like, you get up every day and make, like, this is me talking to me. I'm like, my 75-year-old self, I want that person to have what she wants, so I can lead an awesome life. I'm like, I'm just making it for me.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I think that that's the same message for you and anyone who's listening, is that if you want that, it might be yours to do,
Yeah.
because who else is going to do it? It's like everyone's got their own stuff.
And that's a true message everyone wants to needs to hear, that you know that the energy is in us. It's our call. How are we going to use it, right?
Right. And so what I would love is, if there are people who are curious about that, um, I haven't, this is my longer term vision that I didn't think we would be talking about. I want to enable people to have the skills and the practice and the methodology to do that, so that you can come with the idea, because I get it. You have an idea. You're like, can I, like, but you don't necessarily have the tools, the skills, and the practice for how to build that out into something that somebody could actually test and see if it's something we could do. Now, there are other incubators who can do that, but they usually come from the other direction, though. They usually come with the technology and then say, well, what can we do with it? Which is also good. It's just different.
Yes, definitely. But your approach is the one we need. We, as you know, the society, the humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Before this amazing technological breakthrough will happen, what do you find important in life now? For what there is always time, you know?
So what's important in life? I mean, there are really different perspectives. I mean, you can probably tell by just listening to me that I think that what I'm doing is really important, because I have an opportunity to make a difference in the world. And I think I have a responsibility to try my best to make that change for people who want it. So I probably will spend the rest of my life doing this. It's not the only thing I think is important in my life, though. I have a family, and I mean, if nothing else, the pandemic has taught us so many, or reminded us, I guess, of so many things. It certainly reminds the importance of dear friends and family, and how when your world gets really small, those people are your lifeline. Um, I I also am a very enthusiastic learner and fiercely curious. I think that, and I think that's really, really important. I think that is really important for how I can, like, making sure that I'm contributing in a way that isn't just like my good idea, but I get curious about, is it resonating with people? Am I doing, like, so there's that. But I also think that in terms of my longevity and health, um, that curiosity is really a big part of staying mentally strong and healthy. I also think it makes me a better human.
Yes, that sounds truly amazing. And thank you so much for sharing this with me, because I truly appreciate it. And if I'm being honest, that's one of the most inspiring talks I've ever had. So thank you
Oh,
so much. And I am definitely sure that we will stay in touch, because that what you are doing, that's I don't want to say amazing, because I already said it's amazing, but that's inspiring. That's how people should see the world. That's how should people think. So thank you so much for sharing this with me.
well, thank you for having me, and thank you for asking about it. I mean, I think that is, the big gift that you are creating and offering, is that it's your curiosity about what I'm doing that allows me to share it with more people, and hopefully, also I hope I leave you and anyone who listens to it understanding that you can do this. Like, I'm not that special. I have done a lot of things, so I bring a lot of bits and pieces together, but you can do this too. I'm not the only person who can make a difference, who can contribute to what and how modern technologies will be integrated into our lives. And if you believe in this and you want to be a part of it, then that is something worth pursuing.
Definitely. So we will end this with this incredibly inspiring message for everyone. And thank you.
Well,
Thank you so
thank
much.
you. Well, thank you. And you will put the contact information, anyone
Yes,
who wants to reach
definitely.
out to me. That's
Definitely.
great. It's been a pleasure. You're an inspiration. We didn't talk about you, but I'm guessing that your audience already knows about you. But you are also an inspiration. And I think it's really exciting to see what you're trying to get done, and how dedicated you are to doing it, which is, yeah, it's great. See, like, inspiring people